T-Dog, J-Boy, and me, I'm Lugs. Our pride and joy is pumping our mugs. Be careful, kids, it could get rough. We're flipping our lids on sports and other stuff.
We are the Sport Weasels. I'm J-Boy.
And I'm T-Dog.
And this is Sports and Other Stuff. Even with our masks on, we're still sports and other stuff. So let your brain go numb for the next 25 minutes. We promise we'll wake you when it's over. Draft week, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Plus, how did our local college players fare? 180 live shots, fuzzy images, Roger Goodell's basement, Belichick's dog. Did you see Cliff Kingsbury's war room? The 2020 NFL Draft. Let's break it down from grades A to grade F. Who did well, who didn't? T-Dog, let's get this thing going.
All right. I guess like the first draft that really kind of stands out to me that I really did like. I did like what the Colts did. Basically, and I guess it goes before the draft. They traded their 13th pick to the 49ers to get DeForest Buckner, a stud defensive tackle, to really give them a blue chipper on their D-line. And then in the second round, they got Michael Pittman Jr., wide receiver out of USC. And then they got Jonathan Taylor, a guy who just has been a total stud for Wisconsin
Lights it
these
up.
last
Lights it up.
3+ years. So I think that's the one that stands out to me. Also kind of a combination. I like what the Browns did just because for this main reason. They had one weakness besides their coaching last year, and it was their O-line. Primarily, Baker Mayfield was running for his life. So they get Jack Conklin from the Tennessee Titans to get the right tackle. And then they get Jedrick Wills from Alabama to be their left tackle that they drafted. And then on top of it, they got Austin Hooper from the Falcons, so they get tight end. And they still have David Njoku. They just picked up his 5th-year option. But I think they have kind of really put together some pieces around Baker now that he didn't have last year, the offensive line. I think they've put the offensive line in a spot where they'll start to make strides.
So the Bungles are not anymore. They're the Bengals. Yes. Yes, the Bengals. They did well. We remind everyone this is the Joe Burrow fan club.
That's right.
T-Dog speaking. Take it away. But the Bengals did well.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was a no-brainer with Joe Burrow. Basically, I mean, there were a lot of smoke screens that weren't true. I mean, there was a thing about the Dolphins wanting to trade up to get an offensive tackle. That definitely seems like it was completely fabricated by the Dolphins to some. But the one thing that was true was they were trying to get Joe Burrow. Not to say they don't like Tua a lot, but they prefer Joe Burrow if they could have got him, because I think he's a fairly clean prospect. There's no durability issues. He played at a high level from a mental standpoint. Athletically, he's athletic enough. He's maybe not like a freak athlete like Cam Newton was coming out, Josh Allen, or Lamar Jackson, but he's a very good athlete. So he was clean. And then they get back at the top of the draft. They get T. Higgins out of Clemson.
Absolutely, yeah.
They did franchise A.J. Green, but he's already kind of come out and said if they don't give him a long-term contract, which I don't know if they will, he's not going to probably play this year. So, and also he was injured all of last year, and he missed 7 games, I believe, the year before. So they needed to essentially draft a guy to replace A.J., even if A.J.'s there next year and maybe a year after that. And their other big weakness is they drafted the linebacker out of Wyoming, who their defensive line has gotten older, but they still have some quality players, and they acquired DJ Reader in the offseason, a defense tackle. So they got some quality talent on D-line. Some of us may be older, but they really needed to upgrade our linebacker core, and that's what they did with their third pick and their fourth pick in the draft is just grab some speed and some coverage skills in the third and fourth round. So yeah, they did very well.
So I remind our loyal listeners that our correspondent Lugs, he's on assignment somewhere. All right, here's the crowd at Lambeau Field after the Packers draft. The Cheeseheads are scratching their heads. They trade up for Jordan Love. What's going on? Just relax, Aaron Rodgers? Help me. The USA Today gave him a D grade. What's going on?
I don't know if that grade is fair because I think in time, just like with Aaron Rodgers, they'll allow Jordan Love to sit. And I think the coaching staff will be able to develop him slowly, which if you think about in this day and age, I don't think really has happened since Rodgers. I mean, Patrick Mahomes got to wait a year. I guess that's the closest facsimile to Aaron Rodgers is like a guy of that high of quality that got to just sit. So I think Jordan Love will have that time. I'm not going to say he'll be Aaron Rodgers because for him to be Aaron Rodgers,
right.
I think lightning doesn't strike twice to that level. But I think he can be very good. To be fair to Aaron Rodgers' point, though, is like he hadn't been like Brett Favre where he's talked about retiring. He wants to play till he's 40. He's currently 36. So, and the craziest stat I can tell you is, do you know the last time they drafted an offensive skill position player in the first round?
I'm going to go
the Green Bay Packers.
Randall Cobb.
No, it was in 05. It was Aaron Rodgers.
Wow. You're
That's
kidding.
the last time. No, they usually like to draft wide receivers in the second round. That's what Devontae Adams was. That's what Jordan Nelson was. I think Randall Cobb was the second round. If not, he was third. So that's usually their sweet spot. But even with running backs, they don't draft them in the first round. They haven't drafted a stud tight end in the first round. I mean, they've had some quality ones, but they don't like taking those positions in the first round. It's just not what they do. And it just, like I said, like you look at their offense, they have talent, but it's just Devontae Adams, and you look at their other wide receivers, it's a bunch of guys. And this draft was full of stud receivers or guys who could potentially be stud receivers, and they didn't take anybody.
Right. So the Packer fans are ringing those cowbells saying, oh, my gosh, but you got to give them credit. 30 years of quarterback goodness in Green Bay with Favre and Rodgers, so they know what they're doing.
And if Jordan Love works out, that's possibly 45. So, I mean, it's one of those things where it might hurt you in these next 2 years, and potentially, to be fair, as special a talent as Aaron Rodgers has. And again, it's not like Brett Favre, where Brett Favre did start to dip there, and that's also why they kind of took him, is it looked like he was maybe falling out of the league, where Aaron Rodgers maybe has declined a bit, but it's not substantial yet.
Right. So also getting great reviews, the Ravens and the Vikings, both getting high marks for their draft 2020. Yeah?
Well, both those teams have reached a point, particularly the Ravens, where it's like, you know, another year, another big thumbs up.
What else do you need, right?
And you know, they deserve it. I mean, Rick Spielman for the Vikings has been doing it a long time. And, you know, you look at the amount of draft picks. The funny thing is great as they got. And look, they did well. But like they had like 13 draft picks. I mean, 13
Crazy.
of these guys are not all going to make the team.
Right.
Maybe they will. I don't know.
And then they signed 9 or 10 on free agents. It's like, that's a whole team they're going to put somewhere else. Go play in Oshkosh or somewhere.
But you know, you look at it. They lost. They lost Stephon Diggs, and they replaced him
with what's his name, Jefferson.
Justin Jefferson,
from LSU.
From LSU.
Mm-hmm.
And he primarily played out of the slot, which will be interesting because that's where Thielen plays a lot. But still, like, regardless, like he's a special talent that they got, so that's a good replacement. And then they get Gladney, the corner, who again, Mike Zimmer, he knows corners. Like he'll probably end up being a stud for them as well. And the other, and then they took the offensive lineman from Boise State, who in the Kubiak system, they want athletic offensive linemen, and that's what he profiles as an athlete. So again, they'll get a guy they'll be able to mold very quickly because he has the tools that they want. I was going to say, the thing with the Ravens is they needed like a linebacker who could just fly around. That's what Patrick Queen is. And the interesting thing about him, he is the first guy the Ravens have drafted from LSU. And a lot of it that people bring up, it's because for a long time, Ozzie Newsome
Sure.
was their GM,
Yeah.
and he's from Alabama, and that was the reason. Because you think about it, they have like a stud defense, and they've never had any stud defender from LSU, and but Eric DeCosta's there now, so like he took.
So you're saying Ozzie never took any phone calls from LSU?
No,
this is Bama speaking.
And it's not that none of, and again, we'll get to another team, but I guess we can transition off this.
Yeah, go.
The good teams, and actually, to be fair, even the Green Bay, sometimes you take the best player available, even if it's not a thing you need, because like in 2 or 3 years, it'll be what you need.
Yeah.
So as good as Mark Ingram was last year, he played exceptionally well. J.K. Dobbins at the second round, he was too good to pass up. And just you have him and Mark Ingram next year, so you have 2 running backs behind.
That's pretty amazing.
So yeah, it was a great draft as always for Baltimore.
So who did horribly? Of course, everybody wants to throw gasoline on the Houston Texans and Bill O'Brien. Oh boy, good old Bill. He's always good for a few laughs, isn't he? But who else? I mean, they got a letter grade F according to what I've read. But what do you think?
Well, it's funny you actually brought up, and again, it's not even so much the draft. They lost DJ Reader, so like they replaced him with a guy who's not like exactly what he was on defensive line. He's more of a pass rusher than Reader is. Reader's more of a run stuffer. But I just look at it this way, J-Boy. Like you look at it, they had a stud wide receiver in DeAndre Hopkins, and this kind of goes outside the draft.
Yep.
So like. And on top of it, he was durable. Not only was he like a top 5 wide receiver, he was durable. So you trade him away because I know you don't want to pay him, and I'm not saying it won't work out. So it could maybe, but again, this was a great draft to draft a wide receiver.
Lots of wide receivers, right?
They did not take a wide receiver till the 6th round. And on top of it, they signed Randall Cobb, who has had a good career, and he played well last year, but for the most part, he has a severe durability issues the last few years.
Lots of issues.
And then they trade for Brandon Cooks, who's had 4 concussions in the last 2 years and like one other concussion, and maybe he's done. So you replace him with 2 guys with huge durability issues, and then your other quote unquote special talent, who is when he's healthy, Will Fuller, he's always injured. So it's like you surround Deshaun Watson with all these fragile small wide receivers when you had a certified dog stud in DeAndre Hopkins. That's the part I don't get. Because again, you could have taken a Michael Pittman Jr. in the 2nd round, or you could have taken a Mims. You could have taken you could take T. Higgins. I mean, you could have gotten any of these guys and kind of replace some of the ability of DeAndre Hopkins with a cheaper, possibly a guy who in time maybe becomes better. But like they didn't take any of those guys, so I don't know.
Yeah. What was your favorite part of it all? I mean, the technology, Roger Goodell's basement, Belichick's dog got a lot of press, Kingsbury's green screen room or whatever's going on there.
Yeah, let's talk about that real quick.
What was that? What was that?
Did he? Okay, now look, I know he's been coaching for a while. I know he coached at Texas Tech.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, again, I have never lived in the Arizona area. I'm sure maybe money travels better in parts of Arizona, but still, like, it's a retirement area,
stretches
right?
farther.
I'm just saying Arizona probably still isn't, like, a cheap place to live.
Nah, I don't think so.
He had to rent out a house on Airbnb, like a high-end house on Airbnb, right? That is not his house.
He rented a house on Airbnb. That is a first.
He had to.
Sports and other stuff, exclusive investigation. Rented house by Cliff Kingsbury.
Did you see that thing? It had like small pieces of pieces of grass, and in the middle it had a fire pit. And it's Arizona. Why do you need a fire pit?
Right? Was that AstroTurf or what do you call it? Turf or
and then he had a
field
fitted
turf?
Shirt. He had a fitted shirt on, and he had like nice leather loafers. Now you saw, like, I'm not saying he has to dress like all the other like head coaches. Did you see how most all the other coaches they were like sweatpants
and they're sweating,
like hoodies,
7 of his computer screens all wired to by a guy named Bubba. They look like crap.
Yeah.
And like, what about Belichick?
Bruce Arians looked like after he was going to go out and play pickleball. So,
pickleball at the retirement village. Bruce, your game is up.